There's nothing like a U.S. Sugar Railroad sugarcane train in the distance and the smell of fresh sugarcane to start the day on the outskirts of Clewiston, Florida, America's sweetest town. With the beginning of spring and my birthday right around the corner, I decided to celebrate early at Clewiston's annual Sugar Fest, sponsored by the United States Sugar Corporation, raising cane for generations. On this hot and sunny day, this event offered live music, food, activities, and of course, snow cones. But knowing me, I was mostly there for the trains. Sitting just outside of the U.S. Sugar Railroad's North End shops were 3 new EMD 6-axle units with a mix of the old yellow and gray paint scheme and the newer green and yellow scheme beginning to appear on several units. And this former Southern Pacific tunnel motor unit caught my eye. And I know what you're thinking. Is that the sound of a steam dynamo whirring in the background? Of course, where else could this sound be emanating from but U.S. Sugar's steam locomotive number 148, the Sugar Express? Simmering under the Florida sun, the 148 and the FMW Solutions crew were assigned to the annual Sugar Fest special, giving participants of the Clewiston Sugar Fest scenic train rides through Clewiston sugar fields. This year, the 148 would lead 2 departures out of Clewiston, one at 12:30 and one at 2:30, and the crew set to work oiling all the moving parts. Sugar Express is always a sight to see, no matter what the paint. I wasn't sure which way the train would be headed today, but as I would later find out, the train would head east toward Lake Harbor and back again. While this would give the passengers a nice scenic view of the sugar fields, it was much more difficult to chase the train this way, which made me regret not buying a ticket this time around. But at least this gave me enough time to take a look at the consist of today's train. This season of the Sugar Express saw the first usage of the new open-air car number 2374, the Lake Placid. Unlike the Miami Locks, the car had bench seats in the middle and many more windows for passengers to enjoy all the sights and sounds. Five minutes before departure came the deafening sound of the 148 blowing the long bell 3-chime whistle from Norfolk and Western J Class number 611. It was a treat to hear this whistle again. At 12:30 p.m., it was time for the Sugar Express to depart east for Lake Harbor. Now, without further ado, let's follow the Sugar Express from the Clewiston North End shops to Sugarland Highway. After grabbing the run-by shot at Sugarland Highway, I took the opportunity to swing by the Sugarfest to grab my snow cone and return to the North End shops later. I was hoping to grab a drone shot or two of the Sugar Express, but alas, the wind was up to its old tricks, yielding obvious results. No time for that anyway, though, as an impromptu U.S. sugarcane job bound for the mill arrived. After the cane job went by, I prepared to chase the Sugarfest Special to Lake Harbor on its next run before I headed back to the East Coast. At 2:30 p.m., with a blast of the whistle, the Sugarfest Special embarked on its last run of the day east towards Lake Harbor. time I reached Lake Harbor, the train had already reversed course with the diesel leading westbound. And with this last run by, and yet another exciting day with the Sugar Express, it was time to head back to the East Coast to help with my family business, and I ran into a U.S. sugarcane job on the way. As always, I'd like to thank the folks at U.S. Sugar, Sugar Express, and FMW Solutions for making this operation possible. And remember, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Casual Railfan, signing out.